Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden, and it's been a while since I made a video, but I just turned 57 a few weeks back, so I thought I would do my annual Vegan for X number of years video. And this year it's 27. I have been eating a plant-based diet for 27 years, and I want to share what has changed, where I see myself going, what I'm currently doing, and all that fun stuff. So I got out the Running Raw singlet, which I used to wear with pride back in the days of Running Raw when I weighed about 142 pounds, which was rather heavy as a runner for 5'9". Last year when I made this video, I think I was 165 pounds, and I was talking about possibly becoming the heaviest I've ever been, which would be 168. In my 20s, I got up to 168 pounds, and I looked kind of ridiculous. Well, this morning's weigh-in was 170.4. So I put on 5 pounds of muscle since last year's video, and I'm still just playing around with exercise. I'm not taking it seriously. I'm not going hard, so we'll talk a little bit about that, what's happening there. I'm still taking creatine, 5 grams a day, and we can talk about that as well. But it feels kind of ridiculous to wear this Running Raw singlet now. In fact, the only time I will ever wear it again is perhaps for this annual video. And I'll put up some pictures of me back in the day wearing it when I did not stretch it to this ridiculous degree. Anyway, it's been a wild ride this year. My experiment of gentle movement throughout the day continues. I had 4 years, over 900 hours of training. I think it averaged about 930 hours, 4 years straight. I'm continuing to find new ways of moving, and I'm not moving hard, by the way. I'm not going out there and training intensely. It's all very gentle. I don't push myself to do anything that I don't want to do. I kind of fall into it. I injured my shoulder back in January in a ski race. I had a high-speed downhill crash, and that is still a serious problem. So I've had to modify my strength training. I really wasn't able to do much strength in January and February. And I went to the World Championships in Switzerland in early March, and that was problematic leading up to that race. I wasn't even sure if I could go to that event due to the injury. But since those races, I have been finding ways around the injury, and I'm able to get back into pretty decent shape and obviously put on more muscle mass, which has been a very slow progression. But at the Worlds, I had an 8th place finish, which was not ideal because I had a 4th the year before in Finland and a 4th 2 years before that in Canada. But I will take an 8th. My training was not ideal due to the injury, and Switzerland is also at altitude. That didn't work well for me, but I will take an 8th place. So 3 championships in skiing, I've been top 10. As a plant-based eater, even though everybody tells me that I can't function, especially as I get older, on a plant-based diet, that I will be deficient, and I am, in my opinion, in my experience, proving that to be just absolute nonsense. My protein intake has also changed a bit. Last year I was eating quite a bit more protein. That has come down a bit. Not consciously. It was just hard to consume that much protein. So my protein right now is about 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. I was doing maybe 1.8, and there's a lot of research out there saying that 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is not a bad idea, especially as you age. So I am getting older. It is harder to build and keep muscle mass, and the fact that I'm growing, just doing gentle exercise, is even more data that a plant-based diet can work, because I'm not even trying to get big. My goal is not to put on muscle mass. It never was. This is just a byproduct. My goal is to become a better skier. So I do ski training. I'm roller skiing when there's no snow on the ground, which is a major power sport. I do tons of pull-ups, but never to max, never to failure. I do lots of dips, but never to max, never to failure. I train to success. So dips, though, have been a bit problematic with my shoulder, so I'm modifying how I'm in the position and really trying to get a nice stretch and just stay there and slowly move through an unloaded range of motion until the shoulder kind of relaxes a bit. I also do deep push-ups, which is similar to a bicep push-up. Regular push-up, your hands are up here. A bicep push-up, you turn your hands around and put them down here. And I'm using push-up handles, so my hands are in this position, maybe mid-stomach, as opposed to down by your waist with a bicep push-up. So, and that does not hurt my shoulder. So I've moved a bit from dips to the deep push-ups with my hands in this position. And that really is a phenomenal workout. Still doing lots of knees to bar. My polling machine, I have modified it so that I can handle a great deal more weight on there. I'm moving probably 6 times as much weight as I used to, and rather than going for 10, 20, or 30-minute sets, I'm going for 10, 20, or 30 repetitions. And that has also had a pretty big impact on what's happening to my body. That's made me very, very strong. But again, when I do those 10, 20, or 30 reps, I'm not going to failure. I'm not miserable, and I don't rest 2 minutes and go at it again. I walk away, do some work, come back an hour later and do a set. Come back 4 hours later and do a set. So nothing that I'm doing looks like a standard strength training plan. It's all very gentle, it's all very random, and it always feels good when I do it. I consider it a way to keep myself empowered throughout the day. Rather than feeling exhausted, like I need to recover, that's how I recover from what I do on the computer under the camera right there. Sometimes my writing and my coaching can be somewhat overwhelming, can take a lot out of me, and I'll do some exercise to feel good again, to empower myself, which is why I don't want to go to failure. I want to go to success. I want to get off that pull-up bar and be jazzed and then get back to work with new energy. I've got another experiment I'm playing around with right now. I found out last week that the U.S. Mountain Running Championships are going to be held 9 days from today, so June 1st. And I have run 2 or 3 times since I found out about the championships. I've barely run at all this past year. In general, I barely run at all due to the arthritis, mostly in my left ankle, but my right ankle is pretty bad too. So I'll never be able to get back up to significant running volume, but I can run a little bit here and there, and it hurts, but it's manageable. Anyway, I'm curious. What would happen if I entered a U.S. Mountain Championships with barely any run training, but lots of ski training, lots of elliptical, lots of treadmill, and an 11% grade in my silly Bigfoot position, and at 170 pounds, going uphill and downhill. Downhill is actually worse. Your body weight going uphill is your body weight, but your body weight coming downhill, running fast, is 5 to 8 times your weight. So I'm carrying almost 30 more pounds than I did when I was a top mountain runner. And that gets multiplied by 5 to 8. So I am carrying a significant amount of extra weight on those downhills. So we'll see how my quads handle that. I'm going to do the Wachusett Mountain Race tomorrow, which is 3 miles up and 3 miles down a mountain in Massachusetts. And that'll be a test. I have a week to recover. I'm hoping to beat up my legs a bit on the downhills. And then I go to New Hampshire, to Mount Sunapee for the U.S. Mountain Champs on June 1st. And I'm curious. I have no expectations. I'm just curious to see what this body can do on a mountain. I have no idea. Anyway, this is 57 years old as a plant-based eater, training very gently, very randomly, without a plan. I don't really track my food. I have a general idea of what I eat, but I'm not worried about the details anymore. I have let most details in my life go. I post my hours and my workouts on Strava so people can see what I'm up to, but I don't care. I just move when I feel like moving, and I move for as long as I feel like moving. There's no prescribed amount of time or intensity that I have to engage in. It's just whatever I feel like doing in that moment. And it's gotten me another top 10 in the world in skiing. It's gotten me very fit. I really don't care what I look like. I'm not going for aesthetics. I train as an athlete and a gentle athlete, a compassionate, plant-based athlete. That's my goal, not to look a certain way. This is just a byproduct. But I'm also curious, though, if I keep this up, what will happen when I turn 58, 59, 60? I'm getting more and more excited about this type of movement. So unless there's another serious injury that comes along, and if there is, I'll find a way to work around it, but it may change things a bit. But I'm curious to see what this will progress into in my 60s. I don't know, it'll be kind of fun. I have an additional update to add to the video that you just watched. We are now 3 days in the future, and I competed in the Wachusett Mountain Race on Saturday, the 24th, and that was a good experience. I got some fantastic data. So real quick, I'll tell you what went down. Number one, my morning weigh-in was 171 pounds on the dot. That is the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And again, that's just a curiosity. It's not a goal. I'm just tracking to see how this type of movement is affecting my body. So 171 pounds, about to do a mountain race with 3 days of running under my belt. And it went brilliantly, considering my training and my new weight. It's 3 miles up a road, climbing, I think, 11 or 1,200 feet, and then 3 miles back down the mountain. The first mile and a half is pavement, and then you're on a trail through the woods, which I prefer. I went out conservatively because I wasn't sure how my legs would hold up, and the first mile was quite comfortable. Got my heart rate into the high 150s, which felt really good. Then I picked it up a little bit. Heart rate went into the low 160s and stayed in the 160s for the rest of the race. I had a lot more in the tank when I got to the top, but this was just data collection. It wasn't a race. Then we turned around, came down. The downhill concerned me more than the uphill. I wasn't sure what the pounding would do to my legs, especially now that I'm carrying all this extra weight. So much more force coming down on the quads, the braking that occurs. Took the first mile somewhat comfortably, and then we got into the woods, and I really let it rip because I love running on dirt and rocks in the woods. So I opened it up and ended up getting 3rd place over 50, which is really exciting because this is a pretty big race. There's over 400 people in it, and the 2 people in front of me in the over 50 category are my teammates, Steve and Eric, both of who will be going to the U.S. Championships June 1st. Steve is going to try to win the 55 to 59 category, my age group, and Eric just turned 60, so he's going after the 60 to 64 title. So these are 2 of the top mountain runners in the United States, and I'm very proud to call them teammates. So it was a good mix. It wasn't a soft race. There was a lot of really talented athletes there. Anyway, I thought my legs would be absolutely destroyed from the downhill running. You get DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, and that's why I'm making the video today, Monday, because you don't get the soreness the next day. You get it generally 2 days later, and then it can last up to a week. So when I've done mountain races in the past with an up and down, my legs are often smoked 8 days after the race. In fact, that was the consensus after the Wachusett race on Saturday. We were all talking about whether or not our legs would be okay by Sunday. And we're thinking, whew, thank goodness Wachusett was on a Saturday and Nationals is on a Sunday, because that gives us an extra day to recover. Well, Monday, my legs are feeling pretty good, which is surprising. I did not anticipate that. I thought I wouldn't be able to get out of bed this morning. But I just finished a roller ski, went for an hour, about 10 miles, and using a lot of leg drive. And my legs are tired now after the roller ski, but there's only a mild soreness. It's like a 3 out of 10. Normally it would be a 10 out of 10 2 days after a race. And the only difference that I can see is the deadlift that I'm now incorporating into my training. I have a deadlift bar over there behind the curtains. And I have it set up with 195 pounds. And I'll go over and do a single rep and just hold it. So I'm getting my traps, my shoulders, and the upper back engaged. And I'll hold it there for 15 to 30 seconds and then slowly put it down, walk away. Maybe a couple hours later, I'll do another one, just bring it up and hold it there 15, 30 seconds. And that is the one thing that I've really changed for my legs. My roller skiing is getting a little bit more aggressive and powerful. I'm getting deeper into my leg drive, so I'm coming down more before I push off, so that could also have something to do with it. But that's not really going to account for the impact of downhill running, like all this weight just crashing down on a single quad. And I think it's the deadlift. Just a guess, but that's the one thing that's really changed pretty dramatically. So I'm excited to bring more of that into my plan, or lack of plan. And it'd be fun to see what I can get up to just doing single casual reps that are not hard. So 195 pounds is not hard. It's, I would say, a 70% effort, and I don't want to know what my max is. I don't care. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to avoid it. I just want to go over there and be able to lift it with a bit of effort, but not too much, and then just hold it and put it down. Anyway, so I'm excited going into nationals. I'm going to taper somewhat this week. I've got a lot of digging to do at the house, so that's going to be a good chunk of my training. Going to be doing a lot more roller skiing, trying to get back into that more. And maybe a run or two, we'll see. Oh, and by the way, the one thing that really went in the race was these muscles right here in my forearm. My shoulders got pretty tired too, which I anticipated, because in skiing, you're not getting the frequency of movement. You're bringing your arms up, but it's not as often as running. But it was these guys right here. They were smoked in the race and after. It got to the point where I just had to straighten my arms out and run with straight arms because they were locking up on me. So that was curious. I did a lot of pull-ups the day before the race, and pull-ups use a lot of that muscle to hold the bar, and I'm wondering if that had something to do with it. But anyway, that was surprising. I've never had that group of muscles fail in a running race before and be the limiting factor for me. Anyway, I'm excited about how that went down. And there's a few more things I want to add. I really didn't go into the details much of how my diet has changed and what I'm thinking about, like what's important to me dietarily at this point. A lot of my focus has moved towards the gut microbiome, your gut bacteria, because more and more research is coming out. So when I was a raw foodist, there was research, but it was still in its infancy. And then as I moved away from raw foodism into whole food, plant-based veganism, which was maybe 2014, I let go of the raw ideology, or raw is law, and started bringing in more whole cooked foods because I didn't see a problem with it if you look at the research. And it kind of slowly evolved into a wider plate of cooked vegan options, but with a salad almost every night as the base of my meal. And if I'm going to eat anything that is cooked, pasta, potatoes, rice, quinoa, things like that, it goes on top of a salad. So as my diet has widened into the world of plant-based eating, one thing has shown up on my radar that I'm rather concerned with, because there's some good research showing that it's problematic, and that is the use of emulsifiers, which show up in all kinds of foods. But in the plant-based world, you're going to see them sometimes in protein powders, and that's where it became a concern for me. You're also going to see them in vegan ice creams and baked goods. And an emulsifier helps to break things down. So it's often used to make things smoother. And that can help things blend better. So this is one of the reasons they're added to many protein powders. So these are going to be things like soy lecithin, P80, sometimes called polysorbate 80, mono and diglycerides, and CMC, which is an abbreviation for a name I'm not going to pronounce. Not all of these emulsifiers are going to have the exact same effect across the board and across the population. But there is good research showing that they disrupt your gut bacteria. They change the ability of your gut bacteria to produce acetate, propionate, butyrate, which are super important short-chain fats that have been shown to be highly beneficial to colon function and health in general. But you can also dramatically decrease the number of gut bacteria you have with these emulsifiers. But more importantly, one of the things that the emulsifiers are going to do is they're going to break down the mucus in the mucous membrane of your gut lining, which could lead to inflammation and permeability. So the mucous membrane helps protect your gut lining. And if these emulsifiers are attacking it or breaking it up, your gut wall becomes much more vulnerable. So they're thinking a lot of the inflammatory diseases that people are having within the gut are to some degree based on the consumption of emulsifiers in our modern corporate food supply. So this is something that I do tune into when I'm getting a protein powder. I'll look on the label to see if they're using any of these emulsifiers. And in general, I'll get a protein powder that has as few ingredients as possible and does not contain emulsifiers. I won't mention any brands because I don't want to sound like I'm selling anything, but you can look at the label. You want a simple product without these emulsifiers in it. And if you are going to increase your protein intake, it's important to also increase your fiber intake while taking the protein. So this is why green smoothies are still a great option. Protein without the fiber can ferment basically in the gut and can lead to inflammation. So if you bring in fiber with the protein powder, you negate that effect. So you're getting the protein, but you're not getting the negative effects of protein by itself, which is what a lot of people tend to do. They'll just whip up a protein shake with maybe some fat in it, like some MCTs, medium chain triglycerides, thinking that they're doing themselves a favor. And yes, you are getting more protein, but you're also creating problems in your gut. Anyway, that's the one big thing that's really changed with my eating and the one thing I focus on. Now, other than that, I don't really nitpick the details too much. I do take vitamin B12 sporadically. I take vitamin D3 sporadically, especially in the winter. In the summer, or whatever you call this outside, it was 39 this morning and now it's 74. It's Vermont. I do wear sunscreen, and that can reduce my body's ability to produce vitamin D. So even this time of year, I'll take some on occasion. And that's about it. I don't really worry about my omega-3 consumption. I do consume flax seeds and walnuts and oatmeal and whole grains and whole greens, fresh greens. So it has not been a problem for me. So after 27 years of being vegan, those are the things that I'm now thinking about. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. And I will keep you in the loop on how the National Championships goes this coming weekend, June 1st, at Mount Sunapee in New Hampshire. And I will see you soon.